know, it's crazy. The Senate side is a little bit hard to get into. The legislation's really actually hard to read. It's not as long of a piece, but it's like, here's what the current law is and here's what we're going to change. And in that one, they have, they're more proactive with health care, and they also have insurance co-ops and no demand for a public plan. In both of them, the cuts to Medicare are about $400 to $500 billion. And they say they're going to get this out of taking away fraud. Do the fraud first. I don't know where all the fraud is in Medicare. I know it's there. I mean, I've gotten the scooter store to tell me to come sign the scooter my patient didn't need, and I refused. There's a lot of ancillary services where things are being ordered that are not necessarily necessary for that patient. But we really need to go back and look at the problems and address the problems. How this affects me is that I will be out of business, and most small practices will be, because we can't afford the mandates. So what will happen probably is our group will be sold to another bigger group, like a hospital group, and that hospital group will be contracting with the government plans. And medicine won't be the same. You know, the one thing I've always liked about medicine is that in America we always try to save the unsalvageable. When I was in medical school, when somebody hit the ER, we didn't care if they were half dead or not. We tried to save them. And now when I look at how medical care has come in my 20 years of being a doctor, I mean, 5, 10, 15 years ago, we didn't save very many 3-pound babies. Now we save 1-pounders. You know, 5, 10 years ago, we didn't put a pacemaker in an 80-year-old. Now we do these extremes of life, and then when we care for the extremes of life, we actually extend care to all of us, and we extend knowledge to all of us. And that's probably the thing that scares me the most, is that where they're cutting is on these extremes of life. Does anyone have any questions?
In the beginning, the Tea Party really was just a pent-up frustration and disillusionment of an entire nation, as we were increasingly ignored by our representatives in government. It was a whole symphony of emotions that came out that day, of defiance to oppression, of heartfelt patriotism, simple things. But they shook the tree of liberty to its roots, and the American people regained their voice. And in that moment, the Tea Party movement was born. It was spontaneous that day. Kind of rose out of nowhere. There were no masters, definitely no funding. We didn't have any backroom party affiliation, but the Tea Party groups helped this nation to stand up and reclaim its heritage of liberty and freedom. The people were coming together at that time in opposition to those bailouts, to the corruption of a stained and faltering system, rampant pork barrel politics contained in unread bills. Unfortunately, at that time, the Tea Party movement lacked national focus, lacked a lot of muscle that it has now. So our impotent Congress failed to prevent the formation of a shadow government of czars, and we're seeing the effects of that today. But every day did bring a new outrage. It brought a new violation of the American spirit, and that helped the Tea Party movement to grow in numbers and effectiveness.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Oh, come on, we gotta do better than that. Come on, let's get pumped up. Are you glad to be an American? Are you glad to be a Texan? All right, stand up. Let's give it a big old hand. A big old, give it up for Texas. Stand up, give it up for Texas. All right, guys, my name is Termite Watkins, and I'm gonna get to share a little bit of a story. You know, we've heard some great speakers come up here. I'm gonna tell you a story, and it's a true story. And it's about an American. That American is me. It's about a Houstonian, that's me, that had an opportunity to go to the country of Iraq and serve our troops. Matter of fact, let me just kind of back up a little bit. One day I came home from work one night. Let me just stop my tracks right here. The first thing I want to start out with is that I am a Christian. The story that I'm going to share with you, to God be the glory. I don't take God out of my story. I don't take God out of my life. And I sure as heck don't take God out of our country. And I tell you what, we've got a lot of people right now in office that don't have enough backbone to put God in their country. You see, this country was built in God we trust. Not Obama we trust. Do you still have your pest control license?
Get ready.
I said, I do. You see, my family's in the pest control business. I said, I do. Why do you ask? He said, because our military is needing pest control support in Iraq. My first thought was, they sure do. They got some big old pests over in Iraq. As a matter of fact, that man that called me was a dear friend of mine, and his daughter happens to be here over in our tent. Tina, why don't you wave at us, Tina? It was her dad that got me to go to the country of Iraq. Tina, thank you. But what happened is that night I actually put off the notion of going to the country of Iraq. I thought, why do I want to go to the country of Iraq?